In order to build a galactic superpower, one thing is needed more than anything else, and that is finance. This was a lesson that the Empire was all too aware of, inheriting a shattered galaxy with a more or less ruined economy. This government knew that it was going to have to fight tooth and nail to be able to afford Palpatine's dream of galactic supremacy. Enter Arsene Crassus, the Separatist tycoon that would help the Empire assert itself as a galactic superpower, and become one of the biggest moneylenders in the entire galaxy. Now, Arsene Crassus was a human male who, sometime before the Clone Wars, joined the Trade Federation, and he would fit right into the slimy, underhanded tactics of this federation that would make the Neumodians such as Gunray blush. However, at some point, he must have figured out that this war was doomed to fail. Either that, or he was possibly even approached by Sidious separately and offered a part in their new regime. What we do know is that following Dooku's death, Crassus played a role in convincing the Separatist Council members to go to Mustafar. This is important, as following Grievous's death, naturally a lot of these Separatist Council members will probably wanted to go and spread out, go their own ways, to their own little holdouts where they could negotiate peace for themselves. But Crassus convinced them to stay together, to gather on Mustafar, where they could easily be butchered by Darth Vader and the war could be ended. And this is the point where Crassus launched himself into the Imperial hierarchy. Almost immediately after the massacre on Mustafar, as the galaxy ushered in a new empire, ended the war, and the Jedi were still being mopped up, Crassus took it upon himself to empty the Separatists' accounts. It was a relative smash and grab. He seized assets and accumulated mass amounts of wealth. I mean, we know how wealthy this Separatist Council was, and really, Crassus was just helping himself to the most amount of it that he could before anyone stopped him. The other Separatists were more fleeing for their lives, and Crassus was just quite happily getting rich off it. So why exactly was Crassus allowed to get away with this? It seems odd that this one Separatist member was able to just get away with all of the loot that the entire council had. Well, firstly, he said to the Empire that he will lend them a ton of money at incredibly friendly rates. And this was great. The Empire needed finance from somewhere, and Crassus, the cutthroat businessman, would be able to run his little business empire very well and provide a very reliable form of revenue for the Empire. You see, although the Empire was imperializing, which here means nationalizing or taking over a lot of assets directly and forming them into assets of the state, a lot of Clone Wars assets, particularly things such as luxury goods, didn't really make that much sense to become imperial assets. I mean, what does an imperial moth know about selling pearls from Mon Cala, for example? So let men like Crassus run these businesses. They still have to pay taxes to you, and they work as great moneylenders to ensure the Empire can afford to expand. It's just a more efficient way of generating revenue from these assets than having the Imperials manage them directly. So Crassus actually enjoys the entirety of the Empire for, well, longer than Palpatine did, living with every luxury imaginable and becoming incredibly fat, all the whilst investing heavily into the galactic slave trade. This was not a good man. The thing is though, he was never going to be very popular with actual Imperials. He was an ex-Separatist, and many just saw him as a conman. So post-Palpatine, his days were numbered. Following the Battle of Endor and the destruction of the Death Star, Crassus was invited to a summit of the Imperial Future Council, great name I know, a group under Admiral Sloane in which the remnants were trying to work out where to go now that the Emperor was dead, and that they were actually starting to lose the war. So the group met on the Outer Rim world of Akiva. Crassus was trying to convince Sloane to make peace with the Republic, however he was not exactly friendly reminded that Sloane was more than willing to simply kill the fat ex-Separatist and take over his resources. Anyways, unfortunately for the Imperial Freedom Council, a rebellion on the world and help from the New Republic led to all of the members of the Freedom Council having to be evacuated, and Sloane's luxury shuttle, the Golden Harp, was shot at and ultimately, in a botched landing attempt, crashed into an Imperial hangar and exploded, killing Crassus. This is a somewhat unremarkable end for a man who survived so long, who had gone from Separatist to a high-ranking Imperial. However, his time was up, and surely no one would remember this individual as anything more than a greedy monster, which he was. But what do you guys think of Crassus? And why didn't the Empire just take away his assets as soon as they needed them? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, I do hope that you enjoyed. If so, please remember to like, share and sub, as it is really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at TheLawGuy and tick the bell for regular updates. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching, I do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.